back to our 7-day summer break bike trip. In the last video, we rode from Kanazawa to Hida and then to Kanayama in Gifu Prefecture. This time we're going to Tsumago-Juku and finally to Matsumoto in Nagano Prefecture. Day 3 started with another early morning heading out of Kanayama. After a konbini stop for breakfast, we'd be going through Ishikawa, following the Tsukechi River, crossing the Kiso River, and then finally getting to Nagano Prefecture via the historic Nakasendo. It's day 3! We rode following the Hida River until we've reached Shirakawa, which is unrelated to the Gashozukuri village of Shirakawa-go. We'll be going there later in the week though. The confluence of the Shirakawa and Hida rivers is a beautiful little triangle, which we stopped to admire. From Shirakawa, we followed the river and rode along the T road through the Higashi Shirakawa. This stretch of road was unexpectedly one of Zeb's favorites from the entire trip. From the Hida-Shirakawa confluence to the intersection of 256 and 257 was really nice. There are a couple other road options, but the river and the tea bushes here provided enjoyable scenery to ride along. Atsuchinoko is a possibly mythical snake-like creature, said to be found in this area, though evidence of one has yet to be discovered. Still, at the annual festival, you can join the hunt for one, and receive a reward if you catch one. So far, no reward money has been distributed yet. On the other side of Higashi Shirakawa, we joined up with the Tsukechi River and followed it to Nakatsugawa, which is like a gateway to the most well-preserved part of the Nakasendo. The Nakasendo is one of the 5 routes that was used to connect Old Edo to Kyoto in the Edo period. We only have 8 miles left or so, but we have a pretty big climb to get up to the Nakasendo, and then at the top there's like no convenience stores. So tonight, because our ryokan doesn't have dinner either, I have to buy our dinner here, and then of course we got a little wild in there with ice cream and some lunch and stuff, so we're just gonna camp out by this Family Mart for a little while. We're on the old Nakasendo now. Really nice views. So we just have to finish with a bit of a climb. The name means Central Mountain Route, and there are 69 stations or postal towns along this route. Though it was mountainous, it was one of the most popular ways between the two cities because you didn't have to ford any huge rivers. It runs through the modern-day prefectures of Saitama, Gunma, Nagano, Gifu, and Shiga, with a total distance of about 534 kilometers. The 7 or 8 kilometer section of the Nakasendo from Magome to Tsumago-Juku is one of the best preserved and most famous sections. We rode our bikes up through Magome, which is a popular walking and shopping street. It was really steep, and the signs said no cars or motorcycles, but they didn't explicitly say no bikes. The cobblestones were tricky to ride up, though, and we were clattering a little bit noisily with all of our gear and snacks shaking around, so we tried to ride pretty slowly and stay out of the way of pedestrians as much as we could. If you want to hike this section of the trail, starting in Magome on this street is ideal, since you can park and walk along the shops before it turns into a trail and descends through the cypress and cedar forest. Then you can get in a bus in Tsumago-Juku and ride back to your car. Yeah.
It's steep.
Yay! We made it! The new paved road here follows the old Nakasendo and is open to cars and bikes. As we rode along it towards Tsumago-Juku and the Nagano Prefecture border, it felt like we were going back in time a little. Tsumago-Juku is the 42nd of 69 old post towns, and it's in the larger city of Nakatsugawa. Alright. Hello? It's the Nakasendo.
We've done it.
Yeah. We didn't bike down this.
No.
So we biked down the regular road, but if you want to, you can hike what was the old Nakasendo. And yeah, it's really cool. We'll go through a bunch of like postal towns and stuff. Zeb's taking a bunch of photos.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see the traditional, more preserved trail section of the Nakasendo, and we followed the modern road into Tsumago-Juku. Zeb stopped in an old shop when we got into town to buy 2 non-alcoholic Asahis. With fake beer in our pockets, we rode to the town's parking lot alongside the Araragi River. I've been thinking about getting in the river all day, and Zeb got some Asahi Zeros in the little town up there, so we can have some non-alcoholic beer in the river. Ah, it's gonna feel so good. We had some time to walk around and explore the town before checking into our guest house. Tsumago-Juku might look like a town frozen in time, but it's still lived in today, just under a strict preservation agreement. In 1968, the locals started restoring historical sites and the homes within the town. They restored about 20 by 1971, and then agreed to a charter stating that no place in the town could be sold, leased, or destroyed. In 1976, the town earned a designation from the Japanese government as a nationally designated architectural preservation site. We had some soba for lunch and later snacked on oyaki, or Japanese stuffed dumplings. The dough had more of a steamed bagel consistency than other dumplings I've had, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
So hot. A walnut flavor? Maybe it's like chestnut? These are kuri asazuke, or lightly pickled cucumbers on a stick. They're a summer treat, and these you could grab after leaving behind a 100 yen coin. We stayed in Shimochojia, which is a guest house owned and operated by Suzuki-san. He's the 14th generation of his family to live in this building. He's been on a little bit of a hiatus from running the guest house business because he's been enjoying spending time with his young son, the 15th generation, who was born during the COVID years when business was slow. Not only was Suzuki-san kind, but his house was so incredibly beautiful and peaceful. That night we enjoyed our very easy and casual instant ramen dinner that we brought up the mountain with us, and fell asleep pretty soon after. This was the day we would finally reach Matsumoto. We would leave the Nakasendo and ride along the Kiso River Valley through Agamatsu and Kiso before arriving in the city of Matsumoto. Leaving Tsumago-Juku at sunrise was one of my favorite parts of the week. The town was so quiet and peaceful. On our way out, we continued following the old Nakasendo as much as we could. Much of it's now a paved road, but in many areas it's still a hiking trail, so sometimes we had to go around it. Following the Nakasendo here added quite a bit of elevation, which we could have just gone around, but overall, even though this part was slow going, it was fun to see the history. followed the Kiso River, which is an area that we visited before in my video about cycling up Mount Ontake. We also stopped at the Ononotaki Falls. We rode along the Narai River into Shiojiri, which took us out of the mountains and into the flatland where Matsumoto is located. We passed a sign here letting us know that we had reached the halfway point of the Nakasendo, which was pretty cool.
That's so funny.
As we were riding just ahead of a typhoon crossing Japan, we were rewarded with a pretty strong tailwind that pushed us along into Matsumoto. I'll talk in more detail about this city in the next video, but Matsumoto is a city in Nagano Prefecture at the foot of the Alps. It's also home to one of the 12 original castles left in Japan. We rode through it briefly in my Cycling the Highlands of Japan video.
I made it to Matsumoto, and the first stop is laundry. We're eating some lunch outside the laundromat because we have about 25 minutes until we have clean clothes, and then luckily they have dryers here, so we can finally use a dryer again.
With our clothes dried, we pedaled over to Nawate Street, where our guest house, the aptly named Nawate Guest House, was located. Check-in was a bit late at 4 p.m., but Zeb was nice to hang out by the bikes while I window shopped. The guest house is owned and operated by a young couple who also own the cafe underneath.
Wow.
Out of everywhere we've stayed so far, this one had the most European youth hostel type feel. If you're traveling alone and you want to make some friends, this would probably be a pretty easy place to meet someone to sightsee with while staying in Matsumoto.
We timed this rest day perfectly because it's raining right now, because there's a typhoon that's coming through, so I need to get an umbrella.
We got extremely lucky on this day. Not only had we beat the typhoon to Matsumoto, with the worst conditions expected overnight and on our rest day, but we also arrived in town on the same day as Lake Sua's 75th Fireworks Festival. It was being held that night for the first time since 2019. Despite some fatigue from the day's ride, we caught a train down along with many yukata-wearing couples. The train tickets were less than 700 yen each, and the trip took 45 minutes one way. I expected a lot of people, but there were even more there than I thought. The whole central part of the city was shut down for the festival, and there was paid seating along the lake. The lines to get food were insanely long, and many things were sold out with the crowds, but this was the most impressive fireworks display we've ever seen. I would definitely go again, but just bring more snacks next time. The next day we'd be able to explore Matsumoto on a rest day, and we were looking forward to it. Stay tuned to see the next part of our 7-day Natsuyasumi bike trip. Thanks for watching!